Hello and welcome, this is Eric from AG Racing Central. In my recent video called Games to Play If You Like F-Zero, I listed a couple of titles that may interest you if you are a fan of the F-Zero franchise. You may think that those games apply for Wipeout fans as well, and to a certain extent they do. But anti-gravity racing enthusiasts know that Wipeout and F-Zero are not identical gaming experiences, and the franchises exist on the opposite ends of what I call the Wipeout/F-Zero spectrum. In this video, I'm listing a couple of games that lean more towards fans of the Wipeout games. Let's get started. All the games on this list are available to purchase right now on various platforms. None of them are in early access, nor do they require a legacy console or an emulator to play. Let's first talk about the actual Wipeout games that are readily available to play. Considering how classic the Wipeout franchise is considered to be, surprisingly few games are available to play without using emulators or older gaming consoles. Some older Wipeout games were available but have been delisted, but on the PlayStation Portable and PlayStation Vita you can still purchase the first Wipeout and the PSP games Pure and Pulse. Out of these games, Pulse is the one that still holds up, thanks to its lengthy campaign mode, giving you a solid single-player experience. On your PlayStation Vita, you can also play Wipeout 2048 and HD Fury, but both those games are also available for PS4 and PS5 owners in the excellent Wipeout Omega collection. This is one of the most solid AG races you can play, with its well-paced campaign and an online mode where you can still find online competition, even to this date. But now it's time to look at some games that you may want to check out if you have played all the Wipeout games but are still hungering for more. The first game on this list is Pacer. Developed by R8 Games, consisting partially of former Psygnosis members, Pacer was meant to be a spiritual successor to and an evolution of the Wipeout games. After going through some difficulties during the development stage, including a name change from Formula Fusion, the game came out in 2020 and at least partially achieved its goal. From an aesthetic perspective, the similarities to Wipeout are apparent, but the ships in Pacer controls quite differently and generally feel more drifty. The main attraction of this game is the campaign mode, where you race in various sponsored events with very varied types of races, including single races, combat races, knockout events, and so on. All events are presented with a written introduction, which does a good job of drawing you into the game's lore and creating a bit of context to the races, and the beautiful dystopian surrounding of the tracks also increases the sense of immersion. Pacer features a loadout system divided into three categories: cosmetic, performance, and weapons. The cosmetics category is decent, but the other two are quite substantial, and there's a lot to try out and experiment with, and there are even several modification options for the weapons you decide to take into any given race. You control your ship with the genre staple air brakes, but there's also a rechargeable boost to manage as well. Once you stop directly comparing Pacer to Wipeout, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had in this game. The weapons feel impactful, the track design is great, and the loadout system gives you plenty of options if things ever feel stale. From developer Jujubee, Flashback 3 was released in 2023. While the Wipeout inspiration is very clear, it's also obvious that this game has its own coherent art style, both when it comes to the ship and track design. There is a recognizable grid campaign with several different event types and a progression system where you gradually unlock new ships and equipment. The controls are tight and you can definitely feel the difference between the different ships. Managing your air brakes is just as important in Flashback 3 as it is in any other similar game, but so is dodging bullets and rockets, since this game is very combat focused. Before each race, you pick your loadout, that is determined by the equipment you've unlocked and your ship's energy stat. The weapons and gadgets you bring to each race varies between machine guns and mines to boosts and shields, and they all take up a different amount of energy. This adds another layer of strategy, since energy is a very important stat, but it usually also comes at the cost of speed, handling or durability. Each unlocked ship also comes in different variations with distinct colors that have their stat distributed in slightly different ways. All in all, Flashback 3 is an offline-only game that gives a lot of value for its low price. The combat can feel chaotic, but when you are in charge of the destruction, it's very satisfying, and everything is accompanied by a great soundtrack. From the very overlooked anti-gravity racing developer Supergong, we have had two terrific titles. The first of them is called Trailblazers, a very unique-looking futuristic racing game with an equally unique game mechanic. The vehicles in this game look very reminiscent of actual cars, but with some sort of repulsor engine in each wheelhouse. A bit of personality is also added, as each vehicle belongs to a specific character, and even if you only see them in still images in unvoiced cutscenes, they all have a distinct personality, and the game has a very goofy, unique look overall. In the campaign you're given control of a specific character for each event, and there's also a story to follow here too, not something we get in every racing game. There are a couple of different race types that we've generally seen before, but the twist with Trailblazers is its core gameplay mechanic. You generally race as a team in this game, and with the press of a button, you spray the track behind you in your team's color. This gives every member of the team who flies over the paint a significant speed boost that also stacks. And if you get the combo going, the sense of speed is exhilarating. If your meter is full, you also have the option of using your paint in a more aggressive manner by shooting it at your opponents, which also gives you the speed boost mentioned earlier. These mechanics give the races a strategic aspect rarely seen in racing games. Trailblazers is a unique gem every Wipeout fan should try. From the same developer, Supergonk, comes a slightly more straightforward hovercraft racing game Warp Drive. Calling it straightforward might be selling it a bit short, since this game includes several unique aspects as well, like the general presentation for example. The ships look like funky drones, the tracks are draped in color, and everything is topped off with a stylish cel-shaded look. The controls are very tight with the classic drifting mechanic in place, and there are several gameplay modes to try out, including a single-player campaign. There's a lot of customization, but no dedicated shop. Instead, you can use your earnings at the end of each race to buy different performance-enhancing attachments or something that makes your ship simply look cooler. There's no way of knowing when anything you passed up will be available again, which adds a bit of extra excitement at the end of each race. Warp Drive's gameplay core is a resource system, where you can spend the gems you picked up on the track on a turbo or in a more offensive way. Another option is to use your resources to warp. At various places you will see a prompt to teleport to another part of the track. This is usually a shortcut, but can also be a potentially faster way to the finish line, but that requires more skill to navigate. Having so many ways to use your precious resources makes the races never feel dull, and with Warp Drive, Supergonk has delivered another top-quality anti-gravity racing game. The next game is something that hardcore Wipeout fans already know about, but this game can't get enough attention. If the classic PS1 titles is your favorite era of the Wipeout franchise, then BallisticNG is your game. The game is developed by Neognosis, that takes the core gameplay and looks of the classic Wipeout games, refines everything to perfection, and adds a killer soundtrack and a super smooth frame rate as icing on the cake. BallisticNG has a campaign, where you are introduced to new tracks and faster speed classes at a steady pace. The ships control like they did during the 90s and are slightly more drifted than the later Wipeout games. In this game, you also have a manual turbo to manage alongside the regular weapon pickups. The modding community has also added several new vehicles to the game, as well as new ways to experience it. Let's just say that BallisticNG is not the game you want to skip if you are interested in anti-gravity racing. And finally, we have Redout 2, developed by 343Big. Yes, I included Redout 2 in the video about games similar to F-Zero, and now I include it again in the video about games similar to Wipeout. That is because Redout 2 falls right in the middle of the F-Zero/Wipeout spectrum and plays in a very distinct way without feeling too much like either franchise. The very lengthy campaign in this game will keep you busy for quite a while, and even though there are several different event types, they all focus on going very, very fast. There are no weapons in Redout 2, and all you need to worry about is managing your regular boost and your hyper boost without overheating and blowing up your ship. There's a tremendous variation in track surroundings and lots of ways different aspects affect your gameplay, like low gravity that makes you jump further and water that slows you down but cools your ship faster. The numerous cosmetic and performance upgrades you unlock through the campaign also adds a great incentive to keep grinding. I talk more about Redout 2 in my video about 5 reasons why you should try the game, which you'll find a link to in the video description. Let me know if there's a game similar to Wipeout that I missed, and click on this video to see some games that are similar to F-Zero. Thank you for watching. I am Eric from AD Racing Central, and I'll see you in the next video.